Okay, I've convinced you that it's worth it. Now it's time for practice. How do we resist the strong manipulation of the bullshit coalition? How to fight biology, bullshit with truth on the line. Let's think about how we start. Humans are born as little, clueless, copy-pasting machines. They have such empty brains, of course, not literally, figuratively empty brains, and they have so much to learn. That word is so complex for a human being. In the first years of their life, they copy everything they can, everyone around, they learn how to talk. After a year, by copying words from adults, not a lot of logical conscious reasoning happens. Information processing in a low level leads to intuitive patterns forming like language and others, but there's not a lot of logical patterns yet. It's mostly intuitive ones. And we're mostly filling blank space with structure without knowing how we do it as kids. And data points are welcome, we explore the world, we are curious, we play, and we learn. Slowly, kids may start to reason logically. With reasoning comes filtering. Okay, should I copy this? I copied everything up till now, but should I copy this? Is this a good idea? Is this belief good, useful, or harmful? Maybe some of the data I'm copying is actually biased or wrong. How do we intellectually differentiate? So we're talking about consciously, not subconsciously. And this is where young humans encounter the all-important concept of trust. Do we trust the information that we get? Or do they? See, the above is totally true and totally wrong at the same time, because here we have another language fuck up with our language, because there are two different types of trust, making it a very weird type of trap word. So a word that is confusing to our brain. There is emotional trust, which is about people's intentions if they want to give you good or bad stuff, basically, good or bad influence. It's about people's intentions, and it's carried and felt by love. For example, if you feel loved, you feel emotional trust to this person usually. And then there's intellectual trust, which is about people's competence, not about the intentions, the competence. The intentions is what they want, the competence is what they know, and the intellectual trust is carried by structure, logical structures. Let's get again of how humans grow. Babies have a sense of love from day one. This is why babies feel emotional trust in their very first year. They cannot talk, but for example, one person holds them, they cry their lungs out, then another person holds them and the babies are super happy. This is because they have different levels of emotional trust to different people. Of course, there's nothing intellectual in this. The baby is still very far from intellectual skills, but they have emotional trust. Babies, they are of course not able to interpret complex knowledge networks. Toddlers also mostly copy and don't filter. And even if older kids wanted to filter, they don't have the intuition and intellectual experience to do it for complex fields such as, let's say, politics or economics, real complex stuff. So intellectual trust is a very adult thing. It's one of the most adult things in life. Kids or even adolescents are not capable of proper intellectual trust that actually works. But when we gather data points, have some intuition, and kind of get the gist of how the world works more or less, we now are capable of intellectual trust when we have a fully developed adult brain, and of course, if possible, boosted by education and diverse experience. The more you have encountered, the more shit you know, and the more you know who and when and how to trust. Of course, it's very important that your diverse experience is not distorted by emotions, because otherwise you get the wrong data points. Now you see why the way we talk about trust is always wrong, because we never specify, we never differentiate. Is this emotional trust we are talking about, or is it intellectual trust? Because these two types have nothing in common. Nothing. This is totally different things. If babies are capable of one, but a teenager is not capable of another, it should be a total red flag that these have nothing in common. And when we say trust, and we always mean specifically one of those, or at least mostly one of those, with the same word, and for some people this is intellectual trust, for others it's emotional trust, it's a mess. It's a mess. We don't really know what's going on with the world, because language defines the way we think, and when it's one word, totally different things, it just completely fucks things up. Again, another example. You can feel emotional trust for your grandmother and hug her and just share her your most personal stuff. And you can feel intellectual trust for your sysadmin to fix your operating system that is broken. Now, imagine letting your grandma fix your operating system and hugging your sysadmin. That's what we're actually doing on some levels in the current world. It's just madness. Trust in its two varieties is literally at the crossroads of the human experience. We love in I Grow Younger to say that life has two central spectrums. One is the love-fear spectrum. Do we feel more love or more fear, which is about emotions? And the other is the chaos structure spectrum, which is not a personal one, but a universal one, which is about structures and actually what structures govern our lives. So you can have the love emotion and the chaos structure, or lack of structure in this case, govern your life, and you are in this quadrant of love chaos, for example. And actually, because intellectual trust is carried by structure and emotional trust is carried by love, and you have this big trust crossroad, that trust in all of its meanings defines a huge amount of our lives. And by having two totally separate meanings in one word without differentiation, we're fucked up. This is probably the single worst influence of language in the modern world, is the word trust. That's the broken word, because we got these two concepts and we merge them into one word, and from that all goes to hell. How did this happen? How the two fundamental human expressions of life's core forces, basically, love and chaos structure, and how did we merge them? Well, when we evolved while living in tribes, emotional trust was everything. It was the bonding force that led to cooperation in the tribe, makes humans the masters of cooperation, and eventually the hegemon force of the planet, which we achieved by cooperation. Where was intellectual trust in the Stone Age? Nowhere. This concept is not biological because it's new. People were not really intellectual at all in the Stone Age. Everything in the tribe had access to roughly the same information, so they were not like knowledgeable, erudite folks. They were just all folks. There were little to no situations where you would trust someone else for information that you could not later verify yourself. There were situations where everyone knew the objective answer of a question after some time, like, does bison meat spoil in the heat? Well, tomorrow we'll know. We check if it's spoiled or not and we'll see. And then for the future we know. But all of this knowledge goes to the entire tribe. You don't have to trust someone else in order to get the knowledge. And if you trust their feeling about this, then you realize if they're right or wrong, and you know whether to trust them or not in the future. It was kind of very simple. And of course, you had situations where no one knew the objective answer, like what's the deal with lightnings? We never know for sure. Let's make an angry god story about it. And there was no shit like, I read on social media that Nicki Minaj's cousin's Francis both got swollen after a COVID vaccine shot. And I totally believe her, because she's hot and famous. So this was actual thing that happens. For those who didn't know, it spurred a major controversy because of a Nicki Minaj tweet about her cousin's Francis both. And this is just crazy. I don't know who the lead expert on COVID vaccines is. I'm pretty sure the friend's cousin does not deserve my intellectual trust, and the data point of his swollen balls can be safely ignored. So that's a key skill, to reduce the noise by ignoring everything that can be safely ignored. Unverifiable information, just toss it away. Ignoring it also helps with another huge problem with the surrounding noise: how to stay focused, how just not to lose yourself in this immense ocean of information. If you haven't guessed by now, social media is a big part of the problem, and here are some great ideas for improvement. This link will be in the description, as well as a lot of other links from the text version of I Grow Younger, because I have found a lot of amazing resources about how to get closer to the truth. But we will not dive in reforming social media in this video, because in I Grow Younger we focus on your direct responsibility, and reforming social media is beyond your direct responsibility. You can be responsible as one person, as a citizen on social media. You are responsible for reforming yourself though, and social media is on another level. Social media, of course, makes this harder, but you can still succeed. So don't blame social media, just do your part of the job. So let's recap. Emotional and intellectual trust are both very important in the modern world, even though in ancient times there was only emotional trust, in ancient tribal times. Emotional trust is a very valuable skill. It will always be critical for our survival in society. Otherwise, we can get into an abusive relationship, or it's just extremely important to know who to trust emotionally, who to get into relationships with, who to trust with your secrets, your personal stories. It's very important, as it has always been. It keeps us out of emotionally malicious people's way. Intellectual trust as a skill is, however, also essential to find your way as close to the objective truth as possible. It is the only tool to find your way in an ocean of information with vastly varying quality. Many people have imbalances in their levels of emotional trust, mostly due to past trauma and amplified possibly by genetics. This is a subject for professional psychologists and therapists and out of the scope of this video. Now we'll focus on intellectual trust. The main skill you need to access the best, least biased information in the ocean of information about anything is which sources to intellectually trust. You cannot verify everything yourself, it's just not possible. You need to know which sources to trust, and intellectual trust is all about this. First, let's see what happens if, like most people, you don't differentiate intellectual from emotional trust. This means that you simply only have the emotional trust skill, and as both biology and evolution developed it, it's your 100% default option. Not a great start. And an even worse addition to this is the very powerful thing called confirmation bias. Because in tribal times, it was very, very important that you believed the same thing that your tribe. It was a matter of survival and passing your genes. We are pre-programmed that once we believe in something, supposedly the truth of the tribe, you are subconsciously attracted to sources that confirm it and subconsciously avoid ones that reject it. I repeat, subconsciously. You are not aware that you have this bias. I can assure you, you have it, and you have to consciously now fight against it in order to balance things out. Otherwise, you get stuck in a bubble, and it's not only social media that creates filter bubbles. You create them. You're pre-programmed with a confirmation bias to self-create your bubble and only believe what you have a good time believing in. As you can see, the bullshit coalition is dominant for a reason. Enough for a confident, charismatic politician to win your emotional trust, they can just shower you with bullshit, everything gets in your brain. You will not only not resist, you will love it. Your biology will tell you to love it because you find someone who supposedly cares about you and will fight, they will be on your side, in your tribe. Confirmation bias will make sure you will not change your mind easily at all. And all populists, left-wing, right-wing, everyone who is in the bullshit coalition, they know this very well. So what happened in recent years? Populist politicians, before they tried to have grains of truth. Now they realized it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. No one gives a shit. It's all about emotions. Here's when this actually happened. 2016, Trump first election year, Brexit year, and Trump got this very damning tape where he was talking about women and he said, well, you should just grab them by the pussy. You know, this should have been a distraction, really. He was caught on tape, it was definitely him. There was huge pressure. He had to apologize and seem like a complete fool for saying this. And by apologizing, he also seemed like a loser, because in politics, only losers get to apologize. Otherwise, you don't get to apologize. So it seems that he was finished. You can play 2016 clips on the TV, the host, the talk shows. Everyone presumed him finished. People said on live TV in the US, Donald Trump will never be president. They said it on live TV. Smart people, really smart people from every walk of life said Donald Trump will never be president after the grab them by the pussy stuff. Well, boy, they were wrong. Boy, they were wrong. In every previous US election cycle, this would have been game and match. He would have no chance. But the game had changed, and they realized too late. Of course, not only Donald Trump, but also a lot of other US politicians, actually most of them are full of bullshit. This is not about being political or picking sides. Their system itself is broken, mostly because of too much money in politics and just the disconnection, the alienation between the politicians and the regular people who are just being mercilessly manipulated for attention, trust, and money. Bullshit also plays a central role in sales and advertising, especially of addictive and harmful products. Every Coca-Cola ad is just bullshit. It's meant to trigger your emotional trust, draw your attention away from the health effects of drinking anything with shit ton of sugar in it, and just go as far away from the truth and as far away from objectivity as possible. The truth is that we will never be able to stop political and corporate manipulation from existing. It's what they do. It's evolutionary forces. It's who they are. It's not the fault of individual people. It's just how it all works. But our job, our personal job, is to see right through it, not be influenced one bit. That's your fight, that's your battle. How do we train the skill? Ideally, in a way that would make the training beneficial in itself. Somehow, there is a perfect playground. It's the conversations with people we care about. Unfortunately, the communication between politicians, advertisers, brands, and us is one to many. It's broadcast. It's things like TV, media, online ads, billboards. So even if I feel that a Coca-Cola ad is bullshitting me, I cannot somehow retaliate. It's just the channel is one too many, it's one way, and I cannot just say, fuck you, Coca-Cola. Of course I can, but it leads nowhere. It has no value, this saying. Makes us feel a bit powerless and demotivated, which unfortunately gets the bullshit more into us. We are more motivated when we talk with our loved ones in symmetric conversations, two-way conversations, where we exchange not just information, but also emotions. And this is where we can build. If you think about it, another less visible but very consequential arena where truth clashes with bullshit are all of the private and small group private conversations where stories are the most powerful tool of influence. Someone tells a story and says, because of this, I believe that this and this. For example, Trump is the best or Trump is the worst. And those stories told in private by people who we emotionally trust are the ultimate influence we get. Nothing gets more into our brains with less filter on the entrance. This is where you can make a difference in building your shield of truth. Because this influence by our closest, loved, well-meaning people may involuntarily be bullshit. Sorry to tell you, but even people who you love and who love you will tell you a bunch of bullshit. Still, the fact that they're well-meaning is all important because this allows safe space for vulnerability in these conversations. If you're new to this, if you're only just starting to develop your emotional trust, you won't be able to develop your emotional trust in a hostile environment. But in such a safe space with your loved ones where you have different opinions and their opinion may be bullshit or your opinion may be bullshit, but it doesn't matter. You care about each other, so you can just agree to disagree and you can bridge your differences while still trying to see what the truth is. And here, for the first time, by agreeing to disagree and still having complete emotional trust to the other person, despite disagreeing, you can start to feel the difference between emotional and intellectual trust. You see, there's something else. I trust, let's say, my mom or my sister or my brother or my uncle about this. I totally trust their good intentions, their good emotional intentions, but I don't trust them intellectually in this. Intellectual trust is something else. And this is how you start the journey. This is how you can focus on intellectual trust, have a feeling about what it is, and then you can start using it, interacting with the world where there are also potentially malicious players, not just well-intended.